Hi guys, this is Robin with excuse me. Robin with Weight Loss Apocalypse. Oh man, I'm just so happy it's Friday. It's just been a long recovery week from spring break, Easter weekend, my husband's 45th birthday. Now I'm preparing for my youngest daughter's 13th birthday. It's been a really awesome week. Anyways. Okay, so this is a clip from a session that I did over a week ago. This is a client who has come to me suffering with anorexia. She did not know that. She just knew something was wrong, and she was starting to have issues with overconsumption of food. And she's never really been a binge eater, although she thought in her head she was addicted to sugar, even though she really wasn't eating very much. She's, to me, clearly suffering with narcissistic anorexia. And she's really, really struggled to accept weight gain without shame. So she's clearly happy to let go of the dieting and is actually allowing herself the grace to eat to the point where she's like, yeah, I deserve to eat, that type of like anorexic overeating as well. She's struggling and has continued to struggle throughout all of our work to surrender the shame attached to gaining weight. And she's actually gained weight, probably 30 pounds, but the whole time feeling horrible about it, fearful about it, not wanting it to happen, constantly feeling the urge to need to control, need to weigh herself, not seeing the connection to her overeating, to that anxiety with food while she's gaining weight. And so in this session, this was such an awesome session where I am honing in on the narcissism. Of which I was trying to help her understand this. This isn't her narcissism. It's the narcissistic core of the belief system, thin supremacy. And in this clip, this is like towards the middle of the clip, this whole session, I think I tried to explain this to her like 6 different ways. And one of the ways that I used that I think allowed her to see this clearly is to compare thin supremacy with racism. And she said, well, how do I stop feeling bad about my weight? And I said, well, how does a racist stop feeling bad about different races? And I paralleled the idea, obviously with body fat, it doesn't work in terms of like when someone is born African-American, they're born African-American, nothing's going to change, right? Whereas someone is born with potential to gain weight and potential to lose weight. So in terms of racism, imagine if someone has the potential to have whiter skin or blacker skin. And in terms of that, the racist ultimately would become the race they don't want. And I'm trying to help her see that you only feel shame. So the shame a racist would have turning into the race they don't want would be horrible. They would feel ashamed to be the race they make inferior. Whereas with thin supremacy, the person who wants to recover from all the consequences of their thin supremacy, they don't want to have to starve anymore. They don't want to have to obsessively exercise anymore. They don't want to, they're dieting to take over their life, but yet they still want to remain safe in their thinness and their superiority. So they're often conflicted around the desire for freedom from their bullshit, but yet they still want to hold the bullshit's belief system. So in other words, she doesn't want to be an anorexic, but she wants to stay looking like an anorexic in fear of her shame of gaining weight. And so in this clip, I am describing brainwashing. I'm describing you hold a belief system that puts you in a position when you look in the mirror and you see your weight that you feel shame. Is it the body that's providing shame, or is it the belief system that criticizes the body that then formulates the shame? So I'm trying to help her see that the belief system is in fact, and the fact that she's holding on to that belief system and believes in thin supremacy, and you'll hear her go into denial a few times. No, I don't. But yeah, clearly she does. In fact, she goes into denial most of the time because it sounds so terrible. And internally, she doesn't, at the heart, feel that way. So she's feeling the difference between the lovelessness of thin supremacy that she's holding herself to and her internal sense of lovingness that's conflicting. Problem is, she keeps on overriding the truth of the belief system with her internal way of being, even though her internal way of being and lovingness doesn't get a voice. So this is a kick-ass session. If you want to watch the whole thing, it's like an hour and 20 minutes. It's in the private Patreon account for people who donate monthly. It's a monthly donation to support the work that I'm writing about and to support these YouTube videos. The link to Patreon to join is below. If you would like to work with me, if you need help, if you're finding that you are at a block, can't move forward, and you're ready to tell the truth and ready to hear the truth and ready to be told what to do and to actually do it, you can work with me too. The link to my website is below. Fill in the consult request form. I usually get to people within the hour or within the day. So, all right. Happy Friday! Let's acknowledge that the way our brains work and the way our human perception work is sequentially. Okay. So this and that and this and that and this, that's a human perception of reality. Does that mean that everything works that way, or is that just how we perceive reality, right? So when you look at your health, you're looking at it in a sequential perception because that's the way we are. Is that the reality of how the body works? That's how our awareness works. Does the body work like that? No. Not at all. If it did, we wouldn't be alive, or we'd be a rock. We'd exist as a linear object, right? Because our consciousness works linearly. So the approach that's primarily been taken to human psychology, human physiology is all sequential because that's how our awareness works. Seems a little dumb, doesn't it? Yeah. We're super dumb. We think that everything works the way our sequential thought processing works. We're so arrogant as a species that we think the entire universe works sequentially like our human mind.
I was going to say it's very arrogant.
Oh yeah, it is super arrogant. We're so into ourselves. We actually think the universe works like a human brain. This, then that, then this, then that, then this, then that. And that's one line of thinking, right? Just one way to think in each snap of a moment, not realizing that there's probably 360 degrees of all of that happening at one time on so many levels. And so that's how you're looking at this, which is understandable because you believe the concept that this causes that, not looking at the whole picture. And keep in mind, they're not addressing the fear-mongering that they do in that food, saying it's bad, it's threatening, it's going to kill you, and how that impacts your fight or flight response while you're eating it. Once again, what happens in the fight or flight response?
Yeah, and like then, I feel it right now.
Yeah, well, how's that working for you? Have you ever thought that maybe that is what is a huge support to what's promoted the consequences or the current way your body's responding? Is it really the glucose in food? Is that really it?
No, it's the body's response, or the body's response to my fight or flight.
It's a whole big picture. It's like a big picture, right? Mm-hmm. How the body is in certain circumstances over millennia of evolution, and you're going to be told that it's because of the food that's in your body. You see how kind of dumb that is?
Yeah.
Wow, that one thing? But that's what they're selling you. It simplifies it so that it makes sense to the sequential thought process that we perceive, right? Not looking at, well, it's not just that one thing. That one thing wouldn't be so magnified. It wouldn't be so magnified if your whole nervous system wasn't on fire. On top of that, Michelle, when you're in that state of mind, when your brain and your perceptions perceive a threat, okay, because it doesn't have to be a real threat. It can be a perceived threat that we think is real, okay? And that's what we're talking about here. This isn't a real threat. It's a perceived threat because someone told you it was, and you said, you're right. You're a leader, and you can tell me what to do. It's called dogma, right? Not only does your blood go to the extremities to help you in case you need to run away, okay? It goes away from the gut, increased acid, and on top of that, there's a process to give the immediate muscles, not just the oxygen they need to run from the bear, but it also breaks down energy inside the liver. It's called it's gluconeogenesis. So the body, it's amazing because it wants to give the body immediate energy. So it breaks down stored energy and puts glucose into your bloodstream. So you have high blood sugar, not because of the food. You don't even have to eat for this to happen. To make readily available energy for your body to run from the bear.
Which is what's happening to me right now.
Yeah, so you're diabetic, okay?
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with food. It just so happens to be that if you're living in fight or flight or constant survival mode, that you don't necessarily need as much food. And your body's not in a position to handle food because it's totally taken away what it's done is it's demoted the digestion as a priority. Digestion is the last priority right now. And not only that, but blood sugar is high to fuel your muscles. Doesn't that sound like the right thing to do if you had to run from a bear?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so that your body's not doing anything wrong. Should we keep on calling that unhealthy? Oh my God, you have something wrong with you. Well, is it really the body that's at fault here? Is it really diseased? Or should we look at your belief systems and your way of life? Is it your environment and the way you perceive it that's the problem? On top of the fact that you keep on being told that it's the food. So you have a high blood sugar, your gut isn't digesting properly, and you're shoving food down your face. Feeling like you're doing something wrong by eating the food. You know, it's just, you got to pull back and look at the big picture here and look at how look at your life and what you should be thinking about. Is it really about fearing the food? Should that be where you should put all of your effort right now? Is it if anything, you might want to be caution flammable with the diet industry and the health industry that's constantly blaming the food and not looking at our actual survival mode and how that's impacting your blood sugar and your gut and how that influences how your food consumption is working, on top of the primal need and urge to feed when you feel your food is being threatened. Continue and add more layers of shit.
I'm going to have to listen to this session a couple of times. I'm glad you're recording.
On top of all the stress hormones that are being released right now. Again, just put this into context to you think that food is the bear.
Yeah. You keep going back. Well, my RA doctor, face keeps flashing in my head and her saying, no matter how hungry you are, try not to eat the food.
That sounds like something really abusive.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay.
No matter how hungry you
I wasn't
are.
going to do that, but
So she's okay with your thyroid being problematic too. She has no idea what she's suggesting.
Right.
I want you to consider the lack of, again, other ways to look at it. She's looking at it from one point of view, that it's about the food, not taking into account all these other things. She's not holding like 5 different to 10. I mean, there's way beyond even my concept of this, right? To sit there and say you should, when you're hungry, just starve. You should just starve. That sounds like she's judging you.
Yeah.
That really sounds like judgment to me.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. I'm making an assumption, but I can't imagine looking at someone and saying, when you're hungry, do not eat. Okay. That's another way of saying starve yourself.
Yeah.
Starve. You need to starve. Okay. Is that something that you would teach anybody? Would you tell that to anybody?
No.
It just, you're highly sensitive to being manipulated because you actually believe what they're telling you. You actually believe it. So this whole time, Michelle, you have to keep in mind you never really let go of those beliefs.
Yeah.
More than likely, you were probably holding on to the hope that you would lose weight.
That sucks.
Well, it is what it is. If you can let it come out and open up about it, then you can address it, right? But why else would you be so affected by an abusive doctor telling you to starve yourself, not considering how that's going to impact the primal nature of how you relate to food as a human being? As a human being. She's completely unaware of that. She has no idea the ramifications of telling someone that, especially someone who suffered from an eating disorder.
Right.
I want you to be aware of how little was going into that suggestion.
I realize now I've been carrying that with me. I mean, when she said it, I thought I was just like, okay, and then let it go, but obviously I didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you feel bad about what's going on. You feel bad. You feel bad. You feel there's something wrong.
Right.
So it would make sense that would impact you, right?
Yeah.
Again, I want you to keep in mind this whole concept of survival mode.
Yeah.
All I gave you were two, the gut and the energy source to the muscle symptoms. Hormones, testosterone, your adrenals, all of these other organs and the hormones that they're producing, how that affects your ovaries, how it's going to affect all these other things.